Good afternoon, everybody watching this as we're approaching the nighttime here, 8 o'clock. We're on time, thank God. It's episode 16 of the Paws Up podcast, featuring the return of Jonathan Mayer. You've been on the show now 3 times, Johnny. That's kind of crazy, man. That's kind of crazy.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the welcoming, and I'm excited to just talk FI athletics, talk shop, and just have time with it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about today, and we'll get all into it. But first, some late breaking news, as you may have seen on our Twitter account. Kevin Barral has been ruled out of tonight's episode. He from what he told me, and Kevin, I sure hope you don't mind me spilling the beans here, but his sister has an orchestra concert tonight. So of course, it's always about family here, right? And so it's just me and Johnny. It's looking like your average episode of The Claw back in our Panther Now years. But it's good to have you back, Johnny. It really is.
Yeah, I'm excited, man.
So let's get right into it. Oh, where are my manners? Let me put up my banners. First things first. Yes, this is Paws Up Podcast episode 16. We recently broke the episode 15 mark with Eric Henry returning to the show, and now here we are in episode 16. And okay, welcome, Jonathan Mayer. All right, we have it there. Now let me just
a little banner.
Let me put the little ticker there. There we go. We're looking good today. All right. Let's get into baseball. That's what we're here for. That's the main sport for FIU athletics. Obviously, of course, we also have softball, and we can talk about softball a bit. Johnny, I know you cover them quite a bit. But let's start with baseball, because it's been it's been a weird stretch for this team. Now, the last game I was at was the FIU Miami game in Coral Gables, which Kevin and I and you were all there. And I would like to briefly talk about that game, because that might have been one of the craziest baseball games, FIU baseball games I think I've ever been to. And I went to a fair share of games when I was a student, right? But for a good 9.5 or 8.5 innings, I felt like FIU could finally beat the Canes and snap that 7-game losing streak since 2018, something crazy like that. And it didn't happen. So this is just what were your thoughts on how that game ended, Johnny?
I mean, it was heartbreaking from our perspective. Coming in, it was a great game. Just from the standpoint of where we were and the pitching and the struggles that we've seen. And taking on a Miami team that also was trying to get some wins, and the way we played, it was great. What was it? Only putting up 3 runs to the 9th inning. I think Dante Girardi got probably the biggest hit of his career with a 2-run single off of Andrew Walters, who people consider one of the best closers in all of college baseball. And then we go to the 9th, and you're feeling good. You get the first 2 outs, and then I forgot. I think it was Edgardo Villegas who was the batter with 2 outs. You get him into an 0-2 count. Lays off some pitches that, you would like to go the other way. And then eventually he gets the walk, the single, and the home run to win it. It's just gut-wrenching. But, from a positive side of things, you got to be happy that you played to that realm against the Hurricanes, which you struggled with. But at the same time, it's like, man, we had that. And,
So it was Levinson who homered to left field that brought in Morales and Villegas for the dub. Now, so correct me if I'm wrong. The pitcher in the 9th inning that gave up the homer was
Cameron Knox.
Okay, it was Knox. Okay, yeah, that's what I remember. So a lot of people were listening to the game on Mixler, which I was happy to call with you and Kevin. So a lot of people know about the game, either as an FIU fan or a Miami fan, right? And that is something confident that I really do think that for most of the game, FIU looked like the better team. They looked like the better team, right? It was definitely a pitcher's duel. Hits were hard to come by. but when FIU was able to hit, they made their hits count. So I would like to hear your take on this, on who you think deserves the blame the most for FIU's loss, because I think it would obviously be easy to blame it on Knox for giving up the homer, but at the same time, prior to the ninth inning, Knox was in a couple of innings before that, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like putting a bit of blame on Rich, Coach Rich Whitten, for keeping Knox in there, especially when things got ugly and the bases got filled prior to that final at bat. I think that was the big blow for the team.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I wouldn't put blame on anybody. I think Coach Whitten said to Kevin,
Yeah.
Knox deserved to close that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did give up a 3-run home run, but he got the first 2 outs and he threw some really good stuff on the outside corners that didn't get his pitches. I think, for a coach, you want to get a guy that Knox, who, although he put himself in some trouble in some spots, he got out of it, which is big. He deserved it. And, it's really, really tough for him to give up that home run, but I don't think, coach deserves any blame for that to,
Mm-hmm.
Keep him in. I think Knox deserved it to stay in, but it was tough for Knox, just the way that how you can see that, once he had some good pitches that were going his way, it became tougher to really keep that in the zone. Eventually we saw, the home run by Levinson and kind of give the Hurricanes the win a couple weeks ago.
So a tough loss for FIU, regardless, despite how good they look. A loss is a loss, and now it's 8 straight L's against the University of Miami. Oh, it's so frustrating against the Canes, and after what I saw, not only in the first game but also this last game in Coral Gables, I do feel confident that before the season over, they can get one win. They can get one win against the Canes, right? In their games against the Canes. I want to say they're in May. They're in early May.
Yep.
And mid.
Actually, it's our final midweek game. So May 10th to 17th, we have the Hurricanes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. By the way, I'm kind of vibing with these midday Wednesday and Tuesday games. It's actually been super fun to go to the ballpark, just the middle of the week, and then obviously you have plans on the weekend. So FIU baseball now stands with a record of 14-19. They're 3-9 in the conference, which we'll talk about in a sec. They have an all right home record of 13-11, but their record on the road is 1-8. Right, that's not good. And after that Canes loss, they were swept by Middle Tennessee, and the trend I'm noticing in that Middle Tennessee game, matter of fact, the majority of the games for FIU this season, what's easy to notice is that their offense, great. It's more than great. It's really great. The way they've put up they're averaging around 4, 5, 6 runs a game at the very least. But at the same time, they're giving up near double-digit runs every other game, and especially in that series against Middle Tennessee, they gave up 10 runs in the first game, 14 runs in the second game, and 13 in the third game. Right? That's simple math here. That's 37 runs in a 3-game series against a conference opponent. So, what went wrong in that series against the Blue Raiders, Johnny?
I think you kind of talked about it, which was every game we had a lead, and then we couldn't sustain it. But the offense, both offenses were so great to watch. I watched a good amount of those games.
Yeah,
I think both teams, they were at it with each other. But for FIU, just the pitching just couldn't hold. But we saw from the offense, I think Mike Rosario had one heck of a week, couple of home runs. Riga looked good, Alex Sanchez looked good, but when the pitching came, it really, really struggled, especially on that Sunday game where we had a 4-run lead. It was 12-8. We just couldn't close it out. So, you said it, the offense, which from what I've seen as a student as well, this is probably the best offense that this FIU program has had. The last, you can agree, the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I as much as I like Mervil Melendez, his teams were never hitting this. We're never scoring this many runs per game, which is absolutely insane. So I mean, let's be blunt here for a second, Johnny. Do you see this pitching core evolving and or improving as the season progresses? Because if I'm not mistaken, we're pretty much at the halfway point. We've done our non-conference game stuff, a couple left, but it's mainly conference opponents, and FIU is just trying to push to enter some tournaments in the long run, and I feel like it's their pitching that's holding them back. How do you see the rest of the season playing out pitching wise, specifically for FIU?
Yeah, I think for Coach Wooden, he's adjusted a little bit.
Mhm.
What he did was Friday. Obviously, Kabarkis is the starter, but what they did was they
Yeah,
put in Jackson Ritchie to go the first couple innings, and then gave off Kabarkis to go, innings 3 through 7, no matter how long. And obviously, we lost that game, but I like that idea better,
yeah.
which is you want to find ways to get your starting pitcher going, and I think using a starting approach and getting your guy in the third inning, it did work better than what we've seen with Kabarkis and some things, struggling mid-season with conference games. I like that going forward. And even what they done Friday, bringing in Orlando Hernandez, go a couple innings and then bring it over
Mhm.
to a reliever. But yeah, I think with this team, it's a lot of adjustments, finding what works in the moment. I personally, for me, I liked the way the pitchers looked this past weekend against FAU, especially
Yeah.
Saturday with Tabirsa, who was really, really sharp. I think it's more of what works well for the team, and obviously it's been a tough year from the pitching side of things, especially within heading into the conference play. But I like the approach a little bit better with FAU. Hopefully that can keep it going. And look at the schedule. This coming week we have really next two series, a La Tech and UTSA. Those are really, really solid teams in conference play. So I'm interested to see how FIU present themselves on the pitching side of things against those conference teams.
And even before that, they have a big game tomorrow, right?
Yep,
They're in Fort Myers taking on the ranked
a ranked team.
Florida Gulf Coast Eagles, right? And
Mhm.
we saw what FIU was capable of doing against a ranked opponent in the University of Miami, who I believe was ranked 23rd when we took them on in Coral Gables. But FGCU is 15th. They're going to be an even tougher opponent, I would think. So going to be a lot to see. And I got to ask, Johnny, we had you on the show before the season began, just talking about your predictions. And did you expect FIU's pitching core to struggle this much entering the season, or has what you've seen with the pitching you kind of expected heading into the season?
Um, I think for me, a lot of guys came back, and I think a lot of questions from people were how the pitching was going to do. And I thought when we started out the year, the team looked really, really good. One thing I would notice about this team that you can take and say, okay, it's trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Is FIU's limiting the walks? They had
Hmm.
nearly over 400 walks last year. Now it's down to around the 100 marks. That's something that I've liked so far from this team. But for me, obviously the pitching was the question, and it's been tough for the team in the way that in conference play, it's how it's went. But still, there's always room for improvement. Obviously, we got recruiting, we got transfer portals, so obviously you can
Hmm.
find ways to improve. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough year for the pitching, but obviously you're going to get better. You're always going to find ways to get better, and that's what we're
Yeah.
definitely going to see in the years to come with Coach Whitting.
And one last thing about the pitching for now. If you look a few blocks away in Little Havana to our friends at Lone Depot Park in the Marlins, you would see that their ace pitcher is no doubt about it. It's Sandy Alcantara, right? I mean, even after that shelling yesterday against Philadelphia, I think there's still no doubt that he is their star ace. Who would you say is the Sandy Alcantara of FIU? Who is the ace pitcher that fans should get hyped for when he's starting a game?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Angel Tabircio. He's been
Yeah.
the
Okay.
more consistent starter for this team. He pitched really, really well against FAU, which is, if you know FAU, they have a really, really
Yeah.
potent offense. He did his job. He helped in that start. I also been liking Orlando Hernandez as well for FIU.
Mhm.
He's getting more and more better opportunities and better innings pitched. He pitched well against FAU, although he did give a home run against Nolan Shanuel, who he's been really, really good. I like
Yeah.
the way he pitched. He was very, very efficient. But you got to say, Tabircio, the fifth year guy, He's been very, very strong to start the year, and then it's carried it over into conference play.
Yeah. Boy, I gotta say, Johnny, this feels like an episode of The Claw right now. Just the way this show is going. Only true OGs will understand that reference. But yeah. So let's move on then to their most recent game, or their most recent series, which was against FAU, right? So in their first game, it was somewhat close, but they lost 4-8. Second game 3-7. But the big story, the one that's been basically all over FIU and even FAU waves, was their game last Saturday where they dropped a mercy rule on the Owls. Wow, 16-2. That might be the most impressive game so far this season. No, it was absolutely the most impressive game for FIU. Like every part of their team looked damn near perfect in that game against FAU. So just Johnny, what happened in that game? How did FIU drop 16 runs on a very solid FAU team?
Yeah, I mean, it was really complete. I'll start with the offense first because I think the pitching does get a lot of props as well. But yeah. FIU, for FAU, they put up a lot of guys. I think they used 4 or 5 pitchers. They really didn't have a starter that game. A lot of freshmen and young guys came in, and FIU took advantage of that. I'm correct. They had about 8 or 9 walks that FAU issued. FIU had really, really good at bats and a couple errors as well. And what you got to do is when you get those mistakes, you got to take advantage of it. And FIU was able to score runs, come across, extra base hits galore. Ruben Carpio, Alex Sanchez, and Guida back-to-back home runs.
That was in the 6th inning, right?
Yeah,
that was when the FIU did most of their damage.
Yeah, it was a 9 spot that gave way for them to win that game. Yeah, so just taking advantage of the mistakes from FAU and using that to score, and then the pitching, got to give props. For McCullough, who wrapped it up, and then to Biercio, who had some spots where he's a guy that does give up base hits, but it was enough to where he can get himself out of jams, which he did. And only a couple of runs, I think it was 2 that he gave up. Other than that, he was really, really good. But so far, that was probably the most complete game of the year. And talking about it, FAU, they came and ranked 40th in the nation in RPI. FIU, that's a really, really, really solid win just to have this year. Because your offense shined and your pitching was even good as well.
I mean, FAU, they had a 21-12 record, right? Yeah. And they were embarrassed by FIU. You would think FIU was the team with the 21-12 record after the game. When was the last time you saw a mercy rule in college baseball?
It's not mercy rule. It's they call it the 10-run rule. I know in SEC they have a rule where that if you play a game. In a conference game or a home game, whatever, and you up by 10 through 7 innings, the game's over. And I think that with college baseball, for FIU in particular, if you're up by 10 on the getaway day, which I guess is the last game of the series, you're able to get that mercy rule. So FIU got it, and I was calling the game, and we had the third out. And they're starting to do the handshakes. I'm like, oh, the game's over. Oh, that's good. 2 hours, 21 minutes, 16 runs. I mean, that's perfect,
Yeah. So let's pause for a moment because that just reminded me of something, Johnny, and I want to give you the spotlight here for a second. You had some big news, not that long ago, a big announcement on social media, if you will. So, I want to make sure I get this correctly. You have been hired as in, I want to say in a very cool internship for the Florida League. A communications internship and play-by-play for the Florida League. So, Johnny, first of all, congratulations. That sounds super awesome. But I just talk for a bit about the Florida League and what people can expect from Jonathan Mayer.
Well, I appreciate that, Jake. Yeah. So, so basically, it's there we go.
I meant to no. Oh. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, hang on. I wanted to no. Kevin's usually the one who does this. All right. Just okay. Sorry. Just continue, Johnny.
I was going to say it's a 6-team league. It's around the Central Florida area, and it's basically brings tons of college kids to this league to play games in the summer. So for my role, I'll be signed with the team. So I'll be doing play-by-play for them for home and road games, home for TV and road for radio. And then also be doing some communication stuff. So that's writing game recaps for the team on their website and stuff. So awesome opportunity. Definitely if it wasn't for everything with FIU Carta and AJ Ricketts in the class and the opportunities I got here, wouldn't be able to get it there. So I'm really excited to do something fun over the summer.
Yeah, and wow, it just sounds super cool. Just because again, they're small schools, right? That are a part of this Florida League. But baseball is a wonderful sport where doesn't matter where you're from or what high school you go to, right? There's talent there, and there is some excellent competition in something like the Florida League. So how soon can we see you calling some games for the league, Johnny?
It'll be next month, so like late May.
Next month, okay.
Late May to late July.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, yeah. Now I'm just seeing 66 days. That was on March 27th. All right, and just looking over some of the highlights of the Florida League, over 500 players drafted in the span of 19 years. There are 34 current players in Major League Baseball that have come from the Florida League. So there is some absolute talent that comes from this system.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So again, congratulations, Johnny. Again,
thank you.
Just adding to your already good-looking resume. Florida League, obviously Panther now. You were part of that. Forgive me. The show with Liam.
Panther Sports Talk.
Panther Sports Talk. You essentially revived Panther Sports Talk from the dead. Which was
shout out Liam. Let me give a shout out to Liam. He
shout out Liam, dude.
Starting his job in Tallahassee, sports reporter. So give big props to him. Hung out with him last week.
Tallahassee Democrat, part of the USA Today network. He's a sports. Look at all these former Panther now legends making waves in I was about to say South Florida, but Tallahassee's not South Florida. Making waves in the state of Florida. So again, shout out to Liam, and of course, shout out to you yourself, Johnny. And again, that resume, FIU Athletics, Panther Now, the Florida League, and of course, appearing 3 times in the Paws Up podcast. It's probably the upper echelon there.
Yeah.
But
of course.
So that was a cool diversion, but let's get back into the FIU Mercy Rule game, because while Kevin is not with us, he provided some clips of his post-game interviews with both Alex Sanchez and Coach Witten. So let's quickly hear what Alex Sanchez had to say.
Big win for you guys tonight, just offense. That's basically the name of the game for you guys today.
The last couple of weeks been tough for us, but we had to just stick together, and we knew it was coming. Time is coming. Baseball's a weird sport, but you just got to keep going and grinding.
When you came back a little slow, but you've really ramped up. And today with the homer, a couple RBIs, just how'd you feel out there today? And just how'd you feel? How have you felt these past couple of weeks where you've been ramping up back to game speed?
Yeah, it was a little slow coming back, especially with the wrist, because the wrist deals with the swing, so it's a little slower. But I feel good now, and I think we're about to get hot.
And you guys beat a good team in FAU, snapped the 8-game losing streak. How does that feel?
Amazing. Like Coach said, our time's coming. We just got to stick to it and just keep grinding throughout the season, because it's a long season.
Big week ahead of you guys. How are you guys feeling?
Great. We're excited to go to FGCU Wednesday and La Tech this weekend and see how it goes.
Thank you, Alec.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Johnny. I got that. Thank you, Kevin. That was his interview with Alex Sanchez after the win against the Owls. And boy, it really seems like Alex Sanchez has only improved after that injury earlier this season. What are your thoughts on what Alex Sanchez has brought to this team offensively? Obviously, their whole lineup has done great, but I feel like Alex Sanchez has really made a name for himself this season.
Yeah, I mean, coming in, we knew he was going to be the guy, and obviously the emergence or not even emergence, but just seeing the potential and the rise of Mike Rosario, Ryan Guida, and the consistency of, Dante Girardi, Angel Figueroa on top of that made this team even special on offense. And, and for Alec, who it was tough for him to have that wrist injury, but it took a little bit of a slow process for him to get going. But once he got going, I mean, he's been on the up and up. I mean, he's been hitting balls, at a home run, obviously. He had a mammoth shot against Stetson last week. It was a missile, and just hitting the ball hard. That's what Alec does, and it's good to see him back on, just playing very well. And it already adds to I talked about the solid lineup in FIU, and he's getting hot at the right time with this team.
Yeah, now let's hear a bit of Kevin's interview with Coach Rich Whitten after the game. And I promise I will mute myself, but I will remember to unmute myself afterwards.
All right, Coach, congrats on the win today. So the team put up 16 runs and batted around the order twice. So just talk about, the offensive performance and seeing the team kind of just take over pitching and offensively.
Yeah, that was certainly one of the best games we've played in a long time, and I'm really proud of the group because we've had a tough 2 weeks, but they haven't quit, they haven't given up, they played hard every single day, and a couple of the games haven't gone our way, and so I'm really glad to see them stick with the process and be rewarded with the big win today. It was a total team effort. The pitching was great, and obviously the lineup was explosive, so it was great to see him do that today.
Let's talk a little bit about Angel Tiburcio. 5 innings, 4 punch outs. Just the decision to keep him out there so long, especially with the success he was having.
Yeah, well, Tibu's been, one of our horses, all year long. He's been our most consistent starting pitcher, and he's a veteran guy that we lean on very heavily. So we needed a good start out of him today to make sure we came out of here with the win on the weekend. He gave us a great start. He was very competitive. He really attacked as good as I've seen him all year. It seemed to be that, he had an attitude on the mound today, and that's good to see out of him. So great start, for Tibu. And then Danny McAuliffe came in and, had a very, very sharp 2 innings there at the end. That's what Danny looked like early in the season. And, he's made a few small adjustments with Coach Thompson. So great to see him really sharp there in the end.
How big is this for the bullpen? Now you kind of save a couple arms and you're able to use them in the weekday game, and especially now with Lautek.
Yeah, every time you get a chance to, to use as few arms as possible and get a win, you're gonna enjoy it. So, we got a lot of faith in the guys that are going to keep getting better in the bullpen. But, anytime you don't need to use them, that's, there's no complaints about that.
Ruben Carpio with a couple RBIs today. He's looked really good these past couple of weeks. Just to talk a little bit about him and especially today's game.
Yeah, Ruben's been swinging the bat well. He's an offensive player. He's an offensive first type guy. And, he's a little bit of a professional hitter, and so when he gets up there, he's got a nice approach. He can use the whole field. And something that he can do really well is hit with 2 strikes. We've seen that for a while. It's his ability to have a great approach with 2 strikes and put together a quality at bat.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's 4 minutes long. Like, goodness. Thank you, Kevin. By the way, that was the new Dolphins draft cap. Looks pretty cool. I like the 3D effect.
Draft coming soon. Next week.
Overall, Johnny, just what are your overall thoughts on Coach Whitten said? He feels like they're only improving. They're getting hot at the right time and halfway through the season, and he feels like they're going to really make some noise for against their next few opponents.
Yeah, I mean, especially the win they got. It's different getting a 4-3 victory there, but getting a 16-2 victory where I keep saying is when you get walks and errors come against the other team, you take advantage of that. That was great to see, and as he talked about it, this is the most complete game of the year, and it's confidence for this team. And tomorrow a really, really good competition against FGCU, and last time they played FGCU was back in February, a game where they had the lead, but the pitching struggled. They came over to FIU Baseball Stadium, I think I'm correct, a month ago, or actually, about a month ago, and just the pitching, or they couldn't get rolling at the right time. So I like this game right here. You can build upon the way you played tonight, and start with FGCU and then go back on the road with La Tech this coming weekend.
Alrighty then, let's take a very brief break, and it's the news break. Let's see if I can do this. All right, now let me get the banner. Okay, here we go. It's Jake's news break, talking about all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general. So let's get right into it. start with men's basketball. Last episode, episode 15, with Eric Henry, we announced that FIU's guard Denver Jones entered the transfer portal and would not play for the Panthers next season. Now, a few days ago, Jones made it official that he is joining the University of Auburn. Jones received offers from multiple schools, including a few more in the SEC, but now it's official. The former Panther is now an Auburn Tiger. So congrats to Denver Jones, and rooting for you over in the SEC. Let's move on now to probably one of the biggest things we've talked about in the news break specifically. FIU Athletics has received their largest one-time donation ever when a group of mainly anonymous donors combined for a $2 million package. All the money will go towards a new weight room facility at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center, renovations of the football locker rooms, as well as brand new hydrotherapy recovery rooms at both the basketball and football stadiums. And finally, a team of FIU students from the Moss Department of Construction Management in the College of Engineering and Computing clinched first place overall in the ABC National Construction Management Competition. The FIU team showcased their skills in a real-world scenario around the construction of a high school in Orlando, and they busted over 20 other groups from some of the top universities around the nation. So, of course, it's not exactly FIU Athletics, but we do love a good competition on the show. So congratulations to those guys. And yeah, that was your brief FIU news break. All right, remember to take it off. Cool. All righty then. So, damn, that $2 million package, that's insane, Johnny.
I mean, it's awesome. Just, it just shows that, you can really build with this program, and Scott's been here and done great things. And, this is huge for it's just, a start of something. Start is just something, well, this department will just continue to get stronger and renovating more. And it's great that they're adding, a weight room to Ocean Bank and renovate the locker rooms at the football stadium, and, some more hydrotherapy for student athletes. It's really, really cool to see, but, just to start, bigger and bigger, better things for sure coming the way for athletics.
Yeah. And I don't know if any anonymous donors are listening to the show, but I think the soccer stadium could use a couple of upgrades here and there, right? I mean, let's be real here. It's just some bleachers and some fencing, and that's it for one of the, I mean, I say it, the best teams that FIU has to offer in their men's soccer team. So hopefully they're the next area of renovations for their stadium. Obviously, it would be easy to be like, oh man, I hope the football stadium can get complete seating everywhere instead of the bleachers, and maybe another digital scoreboard, and maybe in 20 years when FIU is the best football team in the nation, maybe a roof. But let's think small here for a sec. Super cool that this is happening, and hopefully this isn't the end of it, especially before the football season begins. So yeah, let's go back to baseball, Johnny. And let's do something here. Like I said, we're pretty much around the middle of the season. Maybe not exactly, but I'd say we're just about there.
We got about a month left.
A month left, right?
Which is crazy.
They've taken on their fair share of non-conference opponents. They've won some games. They've lost some games. Their offense has looked great. Their pitching has looked not so great in some games. So I'd like to, based on what you've seen so far this season, I'd like for you to grade certain aspects of this FIU team from an F to an A scale, right? So let's start with let's be positive and start with the batting, the offense. What would you grade the offense? And I think it's hard not to go with an A or an A plus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go A. I just think, I mean, maybe A plus. I just think I'll go A plus. I'll give it that much props because they turned it around, dramatically. You look at last year's team, and they bottomed within the offense categories in Conference USA, and now all of a sudden they're right around 4 or 5. They're top in the top 50 in the nation in hits and stolen bases. They're hitting the ball so well. You look at even you can say 1 through 7 are solid guys.
Yeah.
And that's really, really good to see. what you have, I talked about it, Mike Rosario, who leads off. He's hitting 350. Guida, 340 consistently. We're not talking about spurts. These are consistent hitters.
Yeah.
Dante has just taken another level. Figueroa, he's been FIU's most consistent hitter for the last 3 years. And then Alex Sanchez. I mean, this team looks really, really confident. And just they're playing very, very aggressive. And I like what I saw is they can play, take advantage and let you give out, balls and get the free bases. Well, also, if they see strikes, they're going to hit and swing at pitches, and it's paid dividends. And you're seeing how well this team is offensively. But, you add that offense and you add maybe a couple more pitchers next year, this team could be, even skyrocketing at a high level. And we keep forgetting this team won 9 straight, before they took a UM a month ago. So this team has it. But I'm excited to see the direction of this team for sure, especially with the offense.
So, and by the way, I would give it an A+ for the simple fact that FIU has not been shut out once this entire season, right? There have been a few games where they have put up 2 runs at the very least, but they have never been shut out this season, which is actually kind of crazy. So let's move on from the offense. Let's go to, before we get to pitching, let's go to fielding. Let's go to both the infield and outfield. What would you grade them so far?
I'm gonna go B. I think, there's been some times where there's been some tough plays for them just not going their way, or maybe a ball that's hit very hard and it's hard to pick up, things like that. But the defense has improved. There hasn't been a ton of plays that really, affected the team in the long run. But I would give it a B. They have been serviceable, but also making some plays that really excite you. Roland Quevedo, who is coming in for Steven Odino, who's down with an injury. The true freshman had made a nice play this past weekend. Figueroa at first base is really, really looking strong at that level. And Dante Girardi, who's flashed leather a good amount of times as well. So I've been liking the defense so far for FIU.
It is worth noting that there have been 33 recorded errors by both the infield and outfield for FIU thus far this season, which is 1 short of the total amount of errors from their opponents this season being 34. So just some food for thought there. So we've done offense, we've done fielding. Now let's get to pitching, starting with the starting pitchers specifically.
For starters, because it's interesting. Like this team is not really, we have a guy that's going to go 6 innings. They found their guy in Tabircio who's gone, the 5 inning. But other than that, the guys have really mostly 3 or 4 innings. But with the way that I've seen the pitchers this year, I think a C is a grade to give just because they've had their really good starts and then they've had times where they had some trouble. But I do think though there's room for improvement for sure. But yeah, it's been a bit of a tough year from when you look at some of the pitching starting side. They had games where they got out really, really good, and times where they got out and just it was so hard to get out of those holes. Some conference games.
So a C, you said, Johnny?
Yeah.
Okay, so a C. Oof, a C. That ain't great, right? Like my parents would get mad at me when I got a C in high school. So shout out to Honor Roll Gang. Let's go to let's talk about the bullpen. What would you rate the bullpen?
Bullpen. There's been a lot of great guys in that bullpen. I mean, it's interesting. I feel like I don't want to give a C again is what I would give. It's just interesting with the bullpen. There's been a lot of really good moments by these guys, but there's some times where it's hard to get out of. But there's a lot of potential, I would say. You look at Jackson Ritchie, who has done all of it. An opener in the midweek, starter, Cummins for relief, gets the save. He's looked strong. Even Cameron Knox too. Obviously, a really, really tough outing for him against the Hurricanes, but did show some signs of really, really, of being, a leader for this bullpen. I liked him a lot. And then even added with McCullough, who I added as well. He had a a monumental start to a season. He had ERA a bit under 1. Had a couple of games he got roughed up a bit against UAB, but he looked really, really good. And then adding to it as well with Orlando Hernandez, who, he started out the year so-and-so, but has really took it to another level so far in these past couple of conference games, especially against FAU, which he just looked really, really efficient.
So, all right, we've done offense, we've done fielding, we've done starting pitchers, and the bullpen. Let's move on then to coaching. And this might be the toughest because it's not something that you directly see. But what would you grade the coaching so far?
I think you look at it from a first year perspective. It's hard to say, oh, this guy, whatever. But I think the coaching, you can definitely give it from a standpoint of, a B plus. I think the foundation that Coach Wooden has built, you can see that it's gonna be really, really good for this program. He's a guy that, one thing that I've seen is he likes to make adjustments. And when he sees something that's not going their way, he's going to make adjustments. And I like the continued energy that he brings to this team. And obviously, look, it's tough to lose 8 in a row. It's so tough, especially in baseball, where you're playing the daily grind of 4 games a week. But he kept his players in, and he stuck with them. And he's a guy that he knows that it's tough. It's tough to win, but you just gotta keep going through it. And then Brian Drogerman, he's been a good asset to have from the hitting side of things. I like what I see from him. Derek Cartaya, who shout out, a great assistant coach and done great things with the infields, and even Sean Thompson, who's a young pitching coach, and Coach Wooden says is a very, very smart young man. And it's obviously been a learning year for him from the pitchers that he's had, but he's been a great guy to have. Standpoint of he's young, the pitching is also young. It can work in a lot of good favors as well.
And the last thing, just an overall grade of FIU baseball this season.
Yeah, 14-19. If you look at last year, they only won 16 games. They're at 14-19 now. 16. They only won 16 last year. They're 14 now, and we have a month left. From a month standpoint, I think we look at a C between maybe a B minus. It depends on where we go. I think a C plus or C plus to a B is really, really good, just because the offense has looked really, really, really dang good. I know you can agree with me, Jake. It's been so good to watch just the way they offensively they play, but the pitching has showed some signs where it's going to take time. But I think from a year of foundation, this is the first year of a new head coach. You're building a foundation. You bring back a lot of veteran guys and bring in some transfers that kind of helps set a foundation. It just shows that things can change quickly. 14-19, you never know how this year can play out. But a big win last Saturday, anything can happen. But I do think this team's obviously can improve from winning 16 games last year to winning more than that number. I think they can win more than what they won in 2021, which was 21. So if they're able to get around the 23, 25, or maybe around that 20 win mark, that's still really, really good for the program. But you never know. A month left to go, anything can happen.
And who would you say has been the team MVP?
MVP?
So yeah.
Ooh. Mike Rosario and Ryan Guida, they're both, like, if you look at the numbers, they're like exactly, OPS, everything. I want to give a co-MVP. Do you think we can do that?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. You think? Okay. I think these guys are similarly solid, just from seeing, Ryan Guido, Mike Rosario. These guys, it's you can go to Henning Street. These guys are hitting 350 all year long. So I'll give co-MVP. Mike Rosario, Ryan Guido, those guys have been the it guys, for this team this year.
Okay. So, and last but not least, this is the last thing we talk about baseball. How do you, in general, see the rest of the season going? Do you think FIU will finish with an above 500 record? Do you think they'll qualify for the Conference USA Baseball Championship? And how do you see the rest of the season playing out?
Well, it's definitely going to be a tough stretch. You got La Tech, which is always going to be, especially on the road, that's formidable. And then after that, you got a very difficult two series stretch. You got UTSA. You look at them; they're one of the best conference teams, and FAU on the road in Boca. But after that, you got Western Kentucky, Charlotte, and Rice. It's definitely a stretch that is really going to test this team in the pitchers and the offense. I think it's a good test to see how they can build onto next year. But it's going to be I don't want to say, oh, it seems going to work, but I think this team is going to be serviceable, do their thing. But I think they can really get around over 20 wins for sure. And if they can get to 20 wins, it's not over 500, but at the same time, it shows, okay, this team has built something, and they can even show it even more next year. And you look at, you can bring our guys back. You can see a guy like Dante Girardi, Figueroa, Gina come back. You bring those guys back, add transfers in the pitching and recruiting side. This team just shows they can go into the next level and make another leap, especially with a new conference next year.
Yeah. Alrighty then. So that was your extensive 46 or so minute look at baseball with Jonathan Mayer. Again, 14-19 record at the time of recording. It is April 11th. They're going to take on the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles tomorrow at 6:30. And then they'll begin a three-game series against Louisiana Tech the following weekend. So a lot to be excited about here, and let's move on now to let's give softball a bit of recognition. Of course, we have someone who has covered the team quite a bit. They currently have an 18-22 record. They are 5-10 in the conference. They are 15-10 at home over at Felsberg Field, but are 1-9 on the road. And they're currently in a 4-game losing streak. They were swept by FAU and then lost a game against the University of Central Florida. They're taking on the University of North Florida next Wednesday over in Jacksonville. So just in general, just what do you think about the softball team, Johnny? Johnny, you're muted. You got your.
I did it. We had to be equal. But the softball, a team that is very young, but also is going into the right direction into year 2 with head coach Mike Larrabee. It's been a conference that's a really good conference. A tough game today. They lost against UCF up in Orlando, and then they lost against FAU in a game against Florida Atlantic, where they couldn't. It's tough time scoring, but the pitching was really, really good. And they have 4 new pitchers: Brooke McNichols, Ella Whitney, Megan Kruger, Sydney Berling. Those girls have been really, really solid. And I talked with Corey Brooks, who calls FIU games, and he was talking about when you have a softball team, you want to have 3 good pitchers, but having even 4 can really make it to another level. This team has these players. Ashton Lansdale, the shortstop, who playing her first year softball, she's been one of the best hitters, best base runners, top of the nation in stolen bases. And I gotta mention Isabella Perez, the freshman catcher, who showed the defense. She's top of the nation in getting girls out, caught stealing, but also the bat has really, really shown. She's hitting well over 300. And I'm going to say, I think she's probably one of the best mid-major freshman catchers this year that is in the nation, just because what she can do with the glove and with the bat. This team is really, really good. It's been a tough stretch, against really good teams in FAU and UCF. But I think this team next year, with what you build on with the pitchers that are freshmen and some of the girls that are also young, Ella Whitney, Kalina Downing, this team is going to look really good in the next direction. But 18-22, I think that's good for this team. You definitely want to see more wins. I think got three series left. They have a weekend off this upcoming weekend. But if they can get to around maybe 23, 24 wins, that'll be really, really exciting for this program.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when you look at last year, the softball team went 19-31 in total. and in just with still quite a bit of games left to play, they're already at 18. And they still have like, I'm just doing a quick count here, 7. They have 10 more games to go, and they're already at 18 wins. So yeah, as you were mentioning, yeah, they have some absolute insane talent on that team, some legit softball stars, and I think there have been moments where they have looked absolutely lights out on the field.
Lights out! Lights out!
You got it in. You got it in.
Yeah, I had to put it late. I didn't want to put it super early, or people were like, "Oh, he's gonna do it." No, I had to do it late, 50 minutes in. So, moving on then. I know our last episode with Eric Henry was the spring football focused episode, and I don't want to dwell too much on that in this episode, but I know you've been out there at those practices along with Kevin and Eric and all the others. So, just I would like to briefly hear about what you've seen out there, Johnny. Like, who are some of the players on both offense and defense that have absolutely wowed you so far?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually a shout out. That was really cool having the practice at Charles Alley Park, Liberty City. Yep. I was there with Kevin. That was really cool.
Yeah, Uncle Luke made an appearance.
Yeah,
right?
I saw Uncle Luke there talking to Scott Carr, Coach Max.
That's super cool.
He was in the house. Well, that's the field's named after him. So I mean, he had to come, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it was really cool event. Our practice, and from obviously we're getting into the midst of practice. This is this week and the next week is the spring game, the 22nd. So mark your calendars for that. But yeah, it's just seen some good solid plays and seeing guys progress. I've liked the way that the progression of the receivers, Dean Batterson, Jalen Bracey, Chris Mitchell, those guys are getting going. And especially, having that David Yost offense and having that in your book, and then seeing, Grayson James, he is continuing to look strong and looked really good. He really has looked good. Keywan Jenkins as well has had some nice moments. And then even adding to the defensive side of the ball, Sean Peterson and Elijah Anderson Taylor, the linebacking core, I'm really excited to watch for this team. I mean, bring Peterson back, Donovan Emmanuel, who, obviously you got Gaithan Burda there, who was really good. But Donovan Emmanuel, he is a really dangerous player for this team. So to watch him. And the D line with Jack Daly, who I got to talk with. He's a big man from transfer from Bryant. I'm excited to see the way he plays on this D line. And then some guys like Demetrius Hill and JT Anderson from Bryant. So the team getting rolling with spring. It's definitely when you have a lot of the new guys kind of adjusting to see the style of play. But as we get to is this week 3? I think it's week
I want to
3.
say, yeah.
Week 3 practice. You guys are getting in the flow of things, but I'm excited, man, for the spring game. I'm trying to maybe get a little broadcasting for a little spring game.
At the spring game? That sounds quite interesting, Johnny. Huh?
Yeah, like we did last year.
Yeah, that was super fun. And all righty then. So we have reached the 53-minute mark, Johnny. So just what have been some of the stories in FIU athletics that you've been, of course you're still a student at FIU. I'm sure you've been seeing these players and these coaches quite a bit. Just looking at your personal calendar, what are some of the coolest events coming up that you think fans should keep an eye out for?
I mean, the spring game. I mean, that's gonna be fun. We got just like the culmination of spring, a big alumni thing. We'll definitely get to see some former FIU players come out. It's always a fun event. I know that like to make it interactive with allowing the fans to catch punts, take field goals, throw passes, stuff like that. So that'll be cool. So that's something 6:30, April 22nd at the stadium. That's gonna be awesome. And even another UM game. That's May 10th. You got to come out to a UM baseball game. That's gonna be fun. So that hopefully we can get a dub there and try to get that win. Definitely bounce back after, which was a tough game. We were there in Coral Gables, but yeah. So spring game, the 22nd of April, May 10th, game, and even some softball games. I know that softball is that actually before the spring game. So if you want to, you can go watch softball, baseball, and see football on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So
sounds like a good time, yo.
Yeah.
The Heat are trailing the Hawks 65-50 at halftime in their play-in game. That's not very cool.
The Heat.
But you know what, Johnny? I'll yield. I know you're dying to talk some Marlins, so I mean, I guess we can talk a little bit of Marlins.
You asked it. I didn't say anything.
Come on, Johnny. If Kevin were here, we would have spent the first 30 minutes talking about. Oh my God, did you see that game yesterday where they lost by 15 runs? What's going wrong with the what's going on?
We're up right now. So.
Oh, we're up right now.
Yeah,
oh, that's cool. But why have the Marlins looked? I don't want to say awful, but we're never gonna have a Marlins guest on this show, right? Look,
Kevin's a Marlins guest.
Of course,
he's the host.
Come on, Johnny. They're 4-7. Is this kind of how you expected the season to start for them?
I mean, honestly, yeah. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I mean, this offense is, and then the pitching. Yeah, I mean, the pitching is, you have a guy that walks every batter he sees, and Rogers who having a tough time. But I kind of expected 4-7, but I think we're getting the problems that we have a lot midseason. We're getting it out early, so by May, June, we can get on a nice run. So I'm thinking positive. We were 4-7. We're down to the dumps right now, but we'll get out of it early. Let's make a run next month in June. And we'll be back to playing overachieving baseball. Right now we're underachieving. We're going to overachieve next year.
Okay.
Or this next later year.
So okay, that was B-minute. Okay, good. So 4-7, and I just got to ask how have some of the star players like Jazz and Sandy, along with the newcomers like Yuli and Reyes, just what have you seen from them so far? Are you hyped at the new additions? Are you kind of disappointed at how Sandy has looked in his games? Just yeah. And last but not least, is Jazz being hit with the MLB The Show curse of being the cover athlete?
I mean, let's knock on wood. I don't want you to call it out because then you're gonna jinx it. You got to knock on the wood. But Arise, man, loose Arise.
I have a wooden desk.
Yeah, there we go. Now it's not jinxed. But I'm going to loose Arise, man. That guy's really good. I think he had a 3.
Yeah, he does look good.
Yeah, so Arise, he's been really, really good. Garrett Cooper having a really, really strong contract year. But I just think that the team, they have guys who just can't they can't bring it together. You get a guy on and then they get a double play. You gotta top to bottom, get runs, small ball. They don't really do that now. But I said we'll play poorly now, but we'll see. End of the day, we'll get W's later on.
All right, and you feel confident about that?
Yeah.
Okay, there. I was wondering.
I'm confident. I'm optimistic. Yeah, I'm optimistic.
And what the hell? Let's talk a bit of Dolphins since we are under the hour mark, surprisingly. So, I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of Dolphins news as of late. Obviously, we were all hyped when they signed Jalen Ramsey and even some of the other players as well. I think Braxton Berrios was a very underrated sign. I think he's actually going to do really good this season. But, yeah, what do you think overall of the free agency that period that you've seen for the Dolphins? Are you super hyped like I am, or are you still worried about some of the pieces that we think could be a little better? And I think both of us have an idea of what some of those pieces are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say it's AFC Championship game or bust. That's my take. We don't make it a championship game where this is. I mean, you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Jalen. I mean, you gotta win. You gotta win.
When you sign a player like Jalen Ramsey, granted they didn't have to give up much, but still, when you sign a player like that, you're showing that you're pushing all your chips on the table, right? You have one of the greatest receivers in the game, and Tyreek Hill, not to mention a star in Jalen Waddle. So all of a sudden, you probably have might just have the best receiving core in football.
Yeah.
And I know we lost Craycraft, I believe. I believe.
I mean, yeah, it was tight ends,
Yeah. And the tight end. That's what
Yeah.
I was going to lead to.
Gesicki lost.
Jasicki, yeah. The two areas that I'm still concerned about are tight ends, because of course we lost Jasicki. So that would mean that our starting tight end at this moment is like Durham Smythe, and I like Durham Smythe, but he's he's not. They just don't have a big name tight end, and obviously offensive line. That's always something to worry about, especially with a guy like Tua at quarterback. Who I love Tua, and I'm hoping he stays healthy the entire season. But you just can't go into the season thinking that's going to happen based on what you've seen, right? That's what we're all hoping for. How can the Dolphins solve these problems, these short-term problems of tight end and offensive line based on free agency still available, as well as the upcoming draft?
I mean, I don't know, because I feel like they put all their marbles into this money side for this team. Because I feel
the defense is eating good, right?
Yeah, the defense. Yeah,
I have absolutely no worries about the defense. I think the defense is going to be special.
it's for sure. But I mean, I think the offense too. There's a lot of questions, but I just think that this is like this is a 2-year window. I feel like right now you gotta you gotta win games and not just win games like a deep playoff run, because
and especially after hearing that Tyreek news that once his contract with Miami is up, he's done. He's calling it quits in the NFL. So that was a wake up call. And obviously this is the Paws Up podcast. This isn't the Lemon City Life podcast, so we won't dwell too much on the Dolphins. But I mean, come on, we're Dolphins fans. We're excited for the season. This is probably going to be the most exciting season of my life, rooting for the Dolphins. Right? Last season was awesome, but I feel like this season they're setting themselves up for something even more amazing.
Yeah.
And since we briefly mentioned the Heat in the play-in, we talked about the Marlins, talked about the Dolphins. Let's round it up. Let's get to the Panthers. Big game on Thursday. Win and you're in against Carolina. For having two of the, in my opinion, the best players in hockey in Barkov and Tkachuk, like, my God, it's crazy that the Panthers are in this situation where they have to fight for a chance to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I mean, they're earning it. I mean, they're playing.
They've looked great as of late, but there have still been some stretches this season where they just looked poor, and a lot of that can be put on their D-core, their defensive core, as well as their goalies. Right, Bobrovsky, kind of a mixed bag, especially as of late with all the injuries. But Alex Lyon has looked really, really, really good these last few games. Now, I don't know if Lyon's our guy for the Stanley Cup playoffs, or maybe even in the future. I'm still a big Spencer Knight fan. I hope that eventually he can do wonders for the Panthers. But I feel like Alex Lyon is the guy. I think he's proved it.
He's been really
that is assuming that they get in, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very simple. If the Panthers win their game on Thursday against the Carolina Hurricanes, who are a good team, I think they're also a playoff team. If they beat them, then they're in. They're in the wild card. They would probably have to match up against Boston, which isn't good, but it is what it is, right? So and then the defense, right? They give up a solid amount of goals per game, like on average. And but man, when you have a player like the Chuck that has pretty much put the team on his back for like the last couple months. Hoping the Panthers get in because it's going to be fun. It's going to be super fun covering the Panthers in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And go support the Panthers from one Florida Panthers to the other, right? Alrighty then, Johnny. Do you have any final thoughts on FIU athletics? The floor is yours, starting now.
I'm gonna say it's a new day, obviously. Just what a week already. Only Tuesday, and we already have $2 million donation. Got baseball tomorrow. I mean, it's already the end of the academic year, but there's good things coming. Football, spring game. I mean, exciting times at FIU. Exciting times for sure. Awesome.
He says with such a vigor and excitement. Exciting times. Okay.
Exciting.
All right, Johnny, it was great having you on the show for the third time. I don't know when we're going to make it number 4, maybe around the latter end of the season, but for baseball. But yeah, thank you again for being on the show and being such a great guest, Johnny. It's like you're used to podcasts and you're used to these shows. I don't know how. So again, Kevin Barral suffered an appearance on an orchestra. And as a result, he was ruled out for tonight's podcast. And we let me just drop the IR update scheme. Yes, Kevin, if you're watching, shout out to Kevin. You're putting in good work with these post game interviews for baseball, not to mention the spring practices. And we'll of course we'll see you back in episode 17, Mr. Kevin. So. I speak for myself, Jake Gibson, my guest and good friend, Jonathan Mayer, and Kevin when I say so long and paws up.
Oof. Do you know how many people were watching that?
We were averaging 30 on Twitter.
30?
30, yeah.
Dang.
The numbers have been growing. Like our episodes with David Drucker and Billy Gill average 50 to 60.
How do you check? Is it by the podcast?
I can check on Twitter.
Oh. By the way, Arise is a single away from a cycle. The first Marlins cycle in history.
Wait, what?
There's never been a cycle in Marlins history. Arias has a triple, a single, a home run. Or triple double home run. He just needs a single.
He just needs a single. That's the easiest one.
That's the thing. That it's
the top.
Marlins never had a triple. Ooh. Jazz is up. It's Jazz Cooper and then Arise. Oh, Jazz rips one into right center and it's a double. Cooper's coming up.
This is just setting up Arias for the RBI single. Okay,
Jazz got a triple. 7-3 Marlins. Whew. Come on, Jazz.
Okay.
I want to see Arise getting this. I want to see Arise getting the. Imagine he gets imagine it. Jazz has got a triple too.
Alrighty, Johnny. Great job today. What a great show. An hour and 8 minutes, even without Kevin. I think we still did pretty good.
That was good.
I'm still salty that our episode or our recording for the FIU Miami game was lost.
I know. I had, because what happened was, so the broadcast I did before, basically whenever I press click recording, it doesn't go through. It happened to me on Sunday, and then the Wednesday for the game or Tuesday for the game, it did the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh! So I deleted like three old from last year, like 3 old recordings. So let me probably take a storage thing. But then I was so upset because it was a good broadcast.
Yeah,
Mixler, man.
I thought we were kicking butt on that broadcast too.
We had that was like one of our best broadcasts, just besides the first game of the year.
Yeah,
from a listenership wise.
Yeah, I mean, it still sucks how that game ended, right? But
yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
Well, Arise, it's 3. It's a 2-1, 3-1, 2-1 count. You said you're going to be at the? You said you're going to be at the spring game.
Yeah. That's what, next Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah. So I'll be there. Wait, I think I want to do a broadcast. I don't know, for an hour. I want to do an hour broadcast. Hopefully.
So what, during the actual game itself?
Just like talking FIU football for an hour, and then we can just watch it. Because last time we didn't really have an idea what to do. I just want to do a FIU football talk on Mixler or whatever.
Okay, yeah. I get you.
Yeah, I want to see. That'll be fun next week.
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh. Sorry. We can do that. Also, is the Panther game at home or on the road?
At home, it's a big ass game.
So if they lose, they're out of the playoffs, or they have to get help.
If they lose and a couple of other teams lose, then they can still get in. But I mean, the easy thing, I mean, it's not easy, but what they have to do, and what would fix everything.
Ooh. Arise is coming up.
Oh man, I don't have the game on. I have the Heat game on.
Can you see it, or it's like all messed up?
Hang on. Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Or let me turn the light off. Let me turn the light off. Is it better?
Yes. Oh my God, this is crazy. So if he hits a single here, he's got the cycle.
Basically, and now they got the walk. Let me see if I can.
Wait, they're going to intentionally walk him?
They're walking him?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, they're walking him. Wait, they're intentionally walking him. Are they? No, they're not. They're not. If they did the bases, if they did the bases where we loaded and Solaire's up.
Okay. All right, I was about to say that'd be so lame.
That would be very lame if Solaire, because like Solaire's base is loaded, so that makes no sense. You gotta, if you get the single.
So the other three or other four were triple-double homer.
Omar Infante was a single shy on.
There we
By the
go.
way, I feel like the way they're handling the broadcast crew for the Marlins is weird. Like they have Tommy Hutton for home games, and then this guy for road games. I don't know.
Huh?
I kind of wish Tommy did both home and road.
I know. There you go.
Yeah,
is this? Am I getting copyrighted? By the way, are we still live?
No, we're not live. What? No, we're not live.
Come on, Arise. I'm watching from your angle right now.
Ooh. All right, here we go. Get the single. That's crazy that there's never been a cycle.
You got hit. There's never been a cycle in Marlins history.
I find that kind of insane.
And that's actually kind of crazy to think that there's never been a cycle ever.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Come on, Luis. Here we go. This is it. Dang, they're going to keep throwing balls at him, this guy.
Okay. Come on, Luis. I guess this would be it's the eighth inning. This would be like the final at bat for Luis too.
Basically, yeah. I mean, or unless like they FIU or Marlins. I keep saying FIU. The Marlins get like on some crazy like.
The Marlins pulling FIU and their offense just starts to go
Come
crazy.
on, get ahead. Oh, dang. Okay. That's good. He gets a strike call.
What's the count? 2
balls and a strike. Like, is he thinking single? Like, you have to think? Like, what are you thinking in this case? Like, what if he gets like a double?
I mean, look, the score is 7-3. I would think, yeah, he's thinking single.
Like, let's say he gets the ball into the gap. Is he gonna stay at first? Like,
yes. He knows it. You don't think he knows it? Of course he does.
Oh, he got it.
In Marlins franchise history, Luis Arraez.
Let's go.
Holy crap. I need to go tell my dad because I bet you he doesn't know.
Huh?
I need to go tell my dad because he's watching the Heat game. All right, Johnny. Pleasure watching. Pleasure doing the podcast.
Yes.
And until next time.
I'll see you. Yes.
All right. Take it easy, Johnny.
Yes. Peace.